Okay, a few minutes have passed since that last video, so I'll just get that lidded for the time being. Okay, you see here, been carving, okay, that was the bottom that I've subsequently re-skimmed. Touching it like that, it's quite hot, quite warm, quite hot. I've skimmed the top as well. It's all rough and ready at the moment, still needs a bit more work. Second application of filler on the bottom, first application here, and it's gone green in terms of it's hard, but it's still eminently carvable at this stage, and it remains carvable like this for about 10 minutes or so before it starts to get too hard. You can see there's a bit of the underlying filler that's set hard, very hard. But it gives you about 10 minutes to knock off all these high points, which makes your sanding easier and your sanding less messy. You can see how well that carves, especially here where I've just put this fresh layer of filler on here. You can see it carves very well. And in effect, I've got an accurate shape, an accurate cross-sectional shape, so I know it's right in side profile. In frontal view, you can see that's going to need a bit more filler there, but I'm very much leaving the actual curves that I'm creating, again, more filler needed here shortly, by eye. But a little bit of experience means that it'll be very close to being accurate, because the initial substrate that I'm working over itself is accurate. And if there's anything that I do that I don't like, especially when it's filler like this, you can either grind it off or you can build on top of it. You know, it's easy in both aspects. Getting very hot now here, very hot indeed. It's almost difficult to hold. The heat of the filler is so high. But you can see with just this basic sanding, it's a bit of a messy job, always more suitable to have in your own man cave rather than working on the kitchen table. I suppose that's where all of us start. But what I'm trying to show is how easy it actually is to do some scratch building. I certainly wouldn't recommend diving in for your first attempt at scratch building on a 60, 70, 80 pound trumpeter 30-second scale aircraft kit. It's you know, it can be quite worrying chopping into kits of that kind of value if you've not got any experience. But a conversion like this, so let's say I can see a little bit of balsa wood showing there, that'll need just digging out and a bit of filler popping into the hole. This conversion, this Skyraider conversion, is a nice, fairly simple conversion to do. Obviously in smaller scales, 70-second and 48, you could actually buy the kit of this aircraft. In 30 seconds you can't, but as an example, it might be a good idea if you had fancy having a go at scratch building. Don't buy the kit, buy a stock Skyraider and have a go at modifying it. So you can see my substrate there, my line. Probably need a little bit more filler working up to that line, so I get a nice tangent running round rather than this. It's a bit shallow there, I think. So you can see where I'm cutting back to this other piece of plastic, so I think I need a bit more filler there. But yeah, it would be a good one to use in a smaller scale, 48th or 70-second scale, to have a go, because you'd be creating a shape like this, you'd be adding to shapes, you'd be moving to shapes, but it would be a great one to do. But we can see now I've got one more layer of filler before I'm going to actually attack this with some sandpaper, and it's a little bit rough and ready, but you can see very rapidly how quickly I've been able to manufacture a little bit of carving, a little bit of mess. Here's the, you know, what I've carved from it, but we're nearly at a usable shape here. So I'll probably sign off for today, I think, but I will add a little bit more filler to this before the day's out, a little bit more filler here, and I'll probably start attacking that with a little bit of sandpaper to start to get somewhere to a completed finish. I've been looking for references to see if there's any panel lines on the radar. I'm sure there is, I just haven't been able to find any yet. But we can see now, if we offer this up, ignore where it needs work, we've said already that we're going to need some filler on the top. if I offer this up now, it's roughly into position. It's about right there. We know it's not quite right at the front here yet, so we're going to add some more here. This shape's going to need tweaking a little bit, but it's very easy to do. We're expecting that, it's not coming as a surprise. But we can see now the radome is starting to appear. We're starting to get that shape. It's starting to look pretty darn good. I do keep lifting it. I'm not used to this. I need to somehow create myself some sort of marker in front so that I'm not wafting stuff away from the camera. But hopefully you'll see a radome starting to appear and make that incredibly unusual shape of a airborne early warning Skyraider. This is the British one, as I've already mentioned. I think the Americans used a version of it, possibly with the same radome. I'm not quite sure of the history, but I know the aircraft the Americans used was based on the wide body fuselage with the higher tail. It's one that I've considered doing. It might be another scratch build later on, but the wide body fuselage is, as far as I know, it's slightly wider at this point where it interlocks with the wings, but the fuselage sides are much more vertical to allow for side-by seating for four pilots, two at the front, two at the back, side by side, and that leads to a substantially larger tail fin. I have drawings for it, but I wasn't in the mood for having a go at tackling that. Again, it's one you can buy as a kit, that one. I think Fisher, who are sadly no longer producing due to accidents, well, not accidents, but incidents from the horrific fires in America. In California a couple of years ago. I think Fisher have stopped producing now. So the conversion sets are available, but they are they come at quite a price, quite a premium, because of the fact that they're not manufactured anymore. But just looking at this from the terms of point of view of a kit, I suppose if you supplied the cockpit spine and maybe supplied 2 cast resin doors and expected the model to close their own doors off and supplied that as a kit, you'd only need the little fins on the elevators, and you'd be pretty much at an English airborne early warning Skyraider, which would require no scratch building, but some conversion skills for using resin and stuff. They're relatively easy shape to mould, and so would the spine. I'm not going to do that now, but it would certainly be an option for anybody that decided to have a go at this. For a bit of fun for a conversion. Anyway, I'm waffling enough. I'm going to go away and attack this a little bit more now, and come back later when I've got a slightly more refined shape.